Joining me today in Davos is Mr. Adar Poonawalla, and he's become a household name ever since the pandemic hit India. Adar Poonawalla, thank you for joining me here in Davos.
Pleasure to talk to you, Navika.
And what's the real India story here? How is the world looking at India in the middle of this pandemic and, of course, the war between Ukraine and Russia? Energy challenges and health challenges seem to be dominating the conversations here.
Yes, absolutely. You know, with the absence of Russia and China, and especially with the theme here in Davos of cooperation, there really is nowhere else to look but India. If you look at even this promenade here, it's been taken over. We've got representation from the public sector, private sector. Everyone is very, very keen to invest in India at the moment, given the environment that Modi ji and the government has created of stability, of reforms, and of course the growth that India is seeing. You know, we're not India is not suffering in the same way that most other countries and economies are doing, partly due to the way we handled the pandemic, came out of it, and our natural growth story, which has always been very strong.
But do you think the euphoria is more what we create for ourselves, or is the world really echoing it?
No, absolutely. As I said, for these reasons, you know, I was just talking to some people and they wanted to know which sectors, I mean, you know, it's not, how do I put it, something we are creating as a delusional hype here. Everyone is only talking about India, and even some of the sessions here on how well India is doing across, not just in the pharmaceutical sector, but all sectors.
Adar, as far as India's COVID fight back is concerned, the world is seeing the worst of it even now. China story, I don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's the official version, but you are in the middle of all of this. Do you think India has something to worry about?
No, not at all. You know, given our vaccine coverage of more than 90%, given the fact that we used very good, effective vaccines, the way we handle the pandemic, you know, even earlier on, we're in a very good position. You know, the health minister has also echoed that. And look, it's very important for China to come back to normal as well. The world is dependent in terms of supply chains, raw materials and chemicals, minerals, so many things. So we are in fact trying to even offer some of our good vaccines to China. Let's see if they respond positively. Yet so far we haven't got a positive response. I've publicly over here also made a lot of statements to support you know, them with the vaccine to come out of the situation they're in. They really need a very good and effective booster like Covovax, which works against Omicron, you know, the one which we licensed recently 2 days ago. No. This is not the nasal one.
Covovax.
Covovax, the Novavax one. So, you know, I think it's very important for China to come back. And let's see how India and the West can also play a role in that.
Adar Poonawalla, the nasal vaccine booster dose, that's what we spoke with the minister, health minister, just a short while ago. Are we ready in terms of the manufacturing, in terms of the pricing, and in terms of the availability, should there be a new wave around the corner?
No, I mean, Bharat Biotech makes the nasal vaccine. I'm sure they have enough capacity. And look, all these booster vaccines are very good. There's so many available depending on what you want. So, you know, one has to read up on what suits, you know, their condition and situation like any drug or vaccine. We've got enough capacity, you know, as the Indian vaccine industry for all kinds of situations. We're fully prepared. And if you look at some of the lessons we've learned and health systems that we've got and made investments in India, in terms of testing, healthcare workers, hospital beds, vaccine capacity, we're very well prepared even if there are any future waves. But it looks, you know, at the moment that we don't really need to worry about anything serious.
But you did have an inventory problem, and the booster doses weren't really taking off.
That's because we produce so much. And, you know, suddenly if you close the tap with a flowing river, of course, a few million doses will be wasted, but that's okay. It's just something that we can always restart in a matter of 2 months if required.
How do you see the Indian people talk about skill dividend, a population dividend, a desire to move forward? They also talk about a democratic and a political dividend. The understanding that we get is that most people here believe that the political leadership is pretty much stable in India.
Very stable, yes.
Did you? I'm talking because we are on the eve of an election, and virtually the election conversations in India are up in full swing 400 days before the actual election. Do you also get a feeling that people here sort of depend on India or look at the India story because of the political stability?
Yes, because see, as a foreign investor or a company wanting to manufacture or provide services from India or in India, it's very important that they can rely on the policies that have been set. So we've had a history now of no flip-flopping of policies, no changing and modifying and tweaking that. That's very important. Now, whether we can continue that momentum, of course, we have faith in the government to do so. We have no reason why they wouldn't. And it is this trust in Modi ji's government that everyone is excited about. Look, I'm no political pundit. I don't know where the elections are going to go. I don't want to comment on that. But I think more or less, whichever government or whatever happens, I don't see any major changes happening to the Indian policies, because I think everyone understands that stability is key. The reforms that we've already created, so many reforms and across different sectors, is really making a difference to both domestic and foreign players in India. So I'm very optimistic.
But Adar, politics has really not remained the same as it was. There was a lot of continuity in governance. There was a lot of talking across the aisle. Do you think those times are now behind us?
I think so. I think we've accepted the leadership in terms of the way they've been performing, in terms of everything else. So, I mean, as I said, I'm not a political pundit, so I can't comment on it too much. But I do see stability with the Modi government and continuity with what we've seen so far, at least in 2024. Then who knows after that? But we're very optimistic and very supportive of all the policies that the government is doing.
Well, that's saying a lot, considering that CEOs in India don't want to take any political bets. A lot can be read between the lines.
No, it's not about that. I think the industry has raised and voiced both privately and publicly whatever reforms or changes they want. The government does listen to it, and it's a very collaborative and good environment where so many of these reforms have come from the suggestions from industry and social groups and whatnot. So I would say that the government is very receptive. Of course, just a stupid criticism and remarks here and there, of course, are not welcomed, because it doesn't make sense. Why criticize something just for the sake of it? I think if you constructively, as I mentioned to you earlier, bring up a point, the government is very open and receptive on everything.
And challenges for the Indian economy, the Indian story here, what do you think are?
I think the challenges are the global supply chains. I think once that again stabilizes, and China has a role to play in that, you'll see a further growth. The way India is growing anyway compared to Europe and any other economy, I think we'll reach our goals by 2030 and not even 2050, So that's also very encouraging. I think I would definitely guesstimate that our growth rates will further improve in the next 1 or 2 years for all the reasons that I mentioned. So we're very hopeful of that.
So the energy challenges, the global recession fears, how do you think they're going to impact people?
I don't see any impact on India. I mean, very few sectors are being affected, maybe commodities, maybe, certain other areas. But I'm actually concerned about the energy transition that everyone talks about. it's not so simple, just going over to green hydrogen or using ammonia and so many other things. We've made a small investment in that area also. I think that will take 5 to 10 years. But again, India is making tremendous strides, and you can talk to some of the key players in that. We're leading the race in that as well, in trying to transition and convert from the traditional.
So all in all, what you go back with in your mind when you leave Davos?
I go back excited, to a country which has endless opportunities. We've diversified in the finance sector. We're hoping to launch some of our new vaccines. And, what I'm looking forward to is a new India which, gives permissions and approvals very quickly. There's a lot of support from the government, a lot of understanding and listening from the government. So I don't know what else anyone could ask for. And it's also a very safe country. Look at so many other countries where there's a lot of issues. So security, a good business environment, I think we're very optimistic and grateful for this time, and very lucky and fortunate to be, doing what we are doing at this moment in time.
Fantastic. A feel-good story to take back to India is at this time when the world is looking rather gloomy, is a huge boon for India. Let's hope it stays that way. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Adar Poonawalla, for joining me here in Davos.